Hello and welcome to my channel. Since this is my very first video, I wanted to introduce you to Midnight. He's a 19-year-old, 15-2 hand high standardbred gelding. He was my first ever horse. I got him in April of 2014, so we've been together for about 9 years now. I originally worked with him using natural horsemanship, but a little over 4 years ago I made the massive leap to switch to positive reinforcement training. One of the first words that comes to mind when asked to describe Midnight is gentle. He's probably the most gentle horse I've ever met. He's quite introverted, just like me, and gets rather anxious when meeting new people. 2022 was definitely our most difficult year together. Around February, I moved him to a new agistment that was closer to my house since I'd recently moved 40 minutes away from his old agistment. His first day there was far from ideal. Right as he was coming off the truck, I got a call from my boyfriend informing me of a medical emergency with one of my other animals. So I had to leave Midnight in a yard and go straight home and then to a specialist vet. I didn't come back until about 5 or 6 hours later. He had a tiny amount of grass and some hay was offered to him in the yard, but he didn't eat any. We were at this adjustment for a few months and it was rough. My usually laid-back horse was suddenly very anxious, didn't want to leave his paddock, and was spooky to the point where it was becoming dangerous. One time he actually spooked and kind of ran through me, which he'd never done before. Midnight's always been perfect for the farrier, but now he was refusing to stand still, yanking his feet away, and basically acting like he'd never had his feet trimmed before. I attribute the change in his behaviour to ulcers resulting from a lack of forage for several hours when he first arrived, as well as the stress of moving to a new and much busier agistment. Just daily feeding was now a huge task for us. Agisties were not allowed to feed horses in the laneways between the paddocks, only in the day yards, something I was not informed of until a few weeks after we'd moved. This walk from Midnight's paddock to the day yards wasn't very far at all, but it would take us maybe half an hour because of how stressed he was. Using a target and positive reinforcement definitely helped, but ultimately I decided it would be best for both of us to move somewhere else. This adjustment had proven unsuitable for Midnight, and I also had some issues with the lack of communication between the owner, management, and agisties. So in June we moved again to a much quieter and more laid-back adjustment property. Midnight currently lives in a huge, beautiful hilly paddock in a herd. I honestly love it. There's plenty of tree shelter, a dam, and the hilly terrain is great for his muscles. Overall, he seems a lot happier here, and I'm allowed to feed and care for him right outside his paddock, which is perfect since he's been showing some separation anxiety, most likely from being moved around so much. But our troubles didn't end there. Well, at the previous adjustment, Midnight had started refusing to eat all his hard feed. At the time, I thought it was due to stress, however, I realised there was a good chance that ulcers were to blame. I put him on a course of natural ulcer treatment, and his appetite and behaviour has significantly improved. In the winter, I had a vet out to do his teeth, and while clipping a patch on his neck in order to sedate him, they discovered he had lice. So they did a spot-on treatment, which I repeated a month later, and in between I bought a flea comb, and each day I would try to comb out as many lice as I could get from his coat. Around this time, I started noticing some bare patches and sores on him. I originally thought this was just from him scratching due to the lice, but then realised it was in fact rain rot. In all the years I've had Midnight, I've never had to deal with ulcers, lice, or rain rot before, so it was quite overwhelming to be hit with all three at once. I think the rain rot was caused by the lice damaging his skin and allowing the infection to set in. I honestly felt like the worst horse owner in the world. I'd always thought rain rot was something that only happened to neglected horses, but after doing some research I found out that it's actually a lot more common than I originally thought, even in the most well cared for horses. I found an amazing product called White Healer. It's a zinc and tea tree oil based cream, and let me tell you, this stuff is amazing. The tea tree oil kills off the rain rot, and the zinc promotes healing and protects from sunburn. It worked so well to clear up his rain rot, and the hair was growing back in a relatively short amount of time. I'm currently still treating some small stubborn patches of rain rot on his face, but the huge patches on his body are now completely gone. Unfortunately, he hates having the white healer applied. I try to take it as slowly as I can with lots of food rewards, but at the end of the day, his physical health comes first. So that was our 2022. Between moving around, dealing with high stress, ulcers, vet visits, lice, and rain rot, our relationship wasn't in a great place. Over November and December, I decided to abstain from any formal training and instead just spent time hanging out with Midnight, either hand grazing, grooming, or chilling in his paddock together. This has been so beneficial to healing our broken relationship. At our lowest point, Midnight was avoiding me and didn't want to be caught. More recently, he's coming up to me in the paddock like he used to. A couple of weeks ago, he nickered to me for the first time in months, and it melted my heart. Now that we're in a better place, I'm going to start training again. This time off has given me lots of time to think, observe, and also read more about positive reinforcement training. It's made me realize that we actually had a lot of holes in our foundation. When I first switched to R+, I was so excited that I just wanted to train everything all at once. So I've decided to start completely fresh and go right back to basics with our training. I'm going to build a solid foundation, and my goal is to be riding Midnight bridleless by the end of 2023, assuming he consents and there are no physical limitations. I've created this channel as a way to document our progress together, as well as share what I've learned about horse care and training. If that's something you're interested in, I hope you will subscribe and hit the notification bell. That way you'll be notified every time I upload. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and feel free to leave any questions in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!